The wonderful thing about Dick and Ian is they're probably, you know, if not the two greatest, you know, television writers that we ever had in Britain. You know, they're in the top half dozen there.
Oh, I see. You see yourself as working class now, Fletcher, do you?
Yeah? At least I used to, till I went up to Glasgow once. Now I see myself as middle class.
What they've done best in domestic TV here is to shine the light on working class men under pressure.
How can I take you into people's homes looking like that? They wouldn't know how to react. Sherry for you, Bob? And what will your friend here have? Meths?
If you look at Dick and Ian, Dick is so sort of still like, you know, middle-class BBC sort of person. And Ian is, you know, was from Whitley Bay. Up in Newcastle, he's a Geordie.
I mean, where you come from, son, the equivalent of caviar is Branston bloody chutney, isn't it?
Ah, I suppose where you come from, it's candlelit dinners, is it? The mug of sherry.
They're so quintessentially Englishman, a northern one and a southern one. It's just, it shouldn't work, but it works incredibly well.
Dick and Ian were very well established in British television. You know, they'd written Porridge, they'd written The Lucky Lads, they'd written I'll Be His Own Pet. But they didn't have that thing that I think they really wanted, which is to go up into the Premier Division, if you like, and say, okay, we're now screenwriters.
Their ambition was always in films. They wanted to be film writers of films, and if you want to be in the film business, Los Angeles is the place to be.
A lot of people come to this town, want to be screenwriters, want to be directors, want to be producers. Unfortunately, they don't have the talent to do it. Dick and Ian have the talent.
This was last year, right? And this we plan over here. And this, with the 2 on the end, is next year.
They've been together almost 30 years. It's a marriage. And like most marriages, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. A bit of a mystery, but it works.
Kind of like the feeling that black Americans meeting girls from Africa somehow. With Cockney accents.
If I had to say which of their characters were them, I would say that definitely Wayne was Ian.
Which cologne is guaranteed to send your average Scandinavian into a frenzy?
And funnily enough, the character that I would most associate with Dick would be Mr. Mackay.
Is there a problem, Mr. Barraclough?
Yes, Mr. Mackay, something has come up.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think it's more Mr. Barraclough, actually, because there's something slightly apologetic about Dick.
We can't let these people intimidate us.
Well, it's all very well you talking like that. He's pointing a gun at my head. You know, Ian the Frenais is more... Although he's a very bright and educated fellow, he has a kind of laddish side.
Shearer shock. Desperate. This is really terrible news. Shearer's captain.
They're both very keen on sport.
Look at this!
Nice. I know that all the characters, or most of the characters in Porridge, are named after footballers.
Oh!
It's a great working class escape sport, that and rock and roll.
No doubt you get round to that sooner or later.
I love Ian's obsession with rock and roll. He's the ultimate rock groupie, he really is.
Well,
Frenais and I both would like to be skinny-thighed lead guitarists. And Dick would be horrified if anybody offered him a job remotely like that, you know. He could maybe manage a band, you know, along with Tom Hanks.
you know that wonderful voice of the Holy Ghost?
They're very contrasting characters. I'd love to sit in on one of the writing sessions and when they're first dreaming up the characters and see them play off each other. I can imagine that there's probably a lot of the Likely Lads set up in there.
I met Dick in a pub. It was in Notting Hill. I've forgotten the name of the pub. That's terrible.
It was in the Uxbridge Arms in Notting Hill Gate. And we used to go around to his flat and play cards all day.
B-18s. Sorry, lads.
He seemed very well informed. You know, he had a Guardian tucked in his pocket. And he ate out a lot.
Some vegetables for you, sir? No, thank you. Just a green salad, tossed. And, no potatoes. And would you open the wine now so it could breathe? Of course.
You know, he talked about how good the cassoulet was at the Bistro Vino the next morning.
We just hit it off. It's hard to say why anybody hits it off. And then when we started writing together, you know, it became very apparent to us that it was a very comfortable process. And then I got on the director's course at the BBC, and at the end of that they gave you £100 and a studio and a day and a crew, and they said, do something. So we took a sketch that we'd done called Double Date, which was two guys talking about their evening and the two girls.
There's nothing wrong with her, is there?
What? No, she's all right.
No, there's bound to be a catch somewhere. Something even her best friends won't tell her.
Oh, I'm telling you, she's all right.
Hey.
What?
Yours is called Deirdre.
Deirdre? Dear me.
BBC Two was about to start up, so they were desperately short of new programmes. I mean, the timing was very, very propitious. And we were hauled in... I went on holiday on the Norfolk Broads and was hauled back to meet Michael Peacock. And he said, did you two see a series in it? And we said, oh, of course. I mean, we'd never dreamed of making it a series. I mean, nothing had been further from our mind. So we walked out of the office and he'd commissioned 6 scripts, which was... Suddenly, you know, we were writers.
And I don't think either of us really were quite certain we could do it. But we did. When young people ask you, how do you get into writing, or how does it start, it's just such an untypical answer. You know, my partner did an exam and someone thought it would make a television series. Shit.
I'll have cheese and biscuits.
Right, that's 2 and 6, 3 and 9.
You don't take travellers' checks, do you? Hey, it's a bit different from where we've come from, and it don't take any chances, do they? Untouched by human hand.
4, Bob, 5. That's right, we got an 8 in the kitchen.
They write wonderful characters. They're middle-class English guys, and yet they write really great working-class characters.
Well, at least I've been somewhere now. Abroad. Not just in England. I've seen how other people live. Eating their food.
I'll give you an example of the writing. In the very first script, we were sitting in a railway station buffet. And I said to Terry Collier, I said, it's pointless. It was absolutely pointless you going abroad. You made no effort to eat the food or speak the language. And who did you meet on the beach? Rita from Barrow-in-Furness.
You're all right, Rita.
Yeah, but Barrow-in-Furness, I ask you.
And I went out with plenty of women.
Every one an English subject. Here, you could tell them a mile off. English girls abroad, with appealing shoulders and flowery dresses. Like wallpaper on the march.
Like wallpaper on the march. Well, what a line.
She's a bit scraggy around the hips.
Never. Just right. She's all there. Long hair down here. Oh, it gets me, that. Mine, Pat's all right, too.
Not bad. Nice face.
Yeah.
Good figure.
Yeah. Good teeth, too.
Eh.
What's the matter with you?
You two, where are you taking them tonight? Smithfield Market?
Our approach was that we could create a comedy out of what seemed to be natural speech.
She's a nice girl, Pat.
Of course she is. Good legs, too.
Can't you think about higher things for a change?
Yeah, they're not bad at all.
We've always read the scripts a lot. We've always read them out loud, because you're writing for the spoken words, you better hear it.
All right, so this is sort of fairly new to us. Let's just check the scene.
And he says, we got a break last night, we had a run-in with another shooter who smoked you. We called this guy Baz, he picked him up this morning. And the nurse comes in. Not much you can do about this, is there?
No, I don't think so.
It's good.
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty funny. Why are you doing that? What about this?
About making him, I might shut him up.
Shut myself in hope for.
Now we're going from black to Irish.
I think that's slightly tighter.
No,
I think it's slightly better, actually.
Yeah. People used to say to me, do you add bits or subtract things? And I don't think we ever added a comma.
It's not a decent place to take a woman to. And we've got the roughest dancers in the country.
Not to mention the roughest football team.
You like it here?
Why, aye, man. It's champion.
Seeing the Likely Lads and hearing James Bolam's speech patterns or the writing and the local accent was the first time I ever remember thinking, oh, I could be a professional actor, that my accent's not going to get in the way.
The North was quite glamorous at the time in a strange way because of the movies that had been made up there, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning and Kind of Loving and that sort of thing, and the North seemed real, and it was a whole world that I wasn't in touch with.
Did you score?
Oh, come on. Standing there next to a flipping milk machine? What do you think I am, Mighty Mouse? Did I score? Huh.
Dick and Ian were the first people to try to bring us a filmic sensibility into comedy. So they were, the next stage in the evolution, so they were the warm-blooded dinosaurs who turned into birds and flew.
You didn't then?
Well, did you?
Well, Well, I was doing all right till you came nosing round. You put me right off.
The Likely Lads were about boys in their early 20s, which was really like us. And then we thought, now we'd like to write a series about people in their 30s. So, and it seemed suddenly a good idea to use the boys, because people used to keep asking, I'll tell you, people used to say it over and over again, whatever happened to those two? And we suddenly said, that actually is a title for a series, Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads.
They had to move on, and the logical thing that, again, happens to normal, working-class lads is you get married.
Are you happy? I mean, really, really happy?
I'm fantastically happy.
I am. Oh, I know it's silly, but sometimes it worries me I'm so happy. I keep expecting something to come along and spoil it.
Daft thing. What could possibly do that?
It was a pivotal moment in Bob's life, and it gave us drama, it gave us conflict, without which you're dead.
By God, she didn't half give herself some airs, that one. She was so stuck up, she thought her backside was a perfume factory. What's the matter?
I am marrying Thelma Chambers in 6 weeks' time.
Well, you just
We
said...
made it up again.
I love that thing of somebody who's not got pretensions. That's not true. She didn't, but she just wanted everything to be all right. And she wanted her nice house, and get her man, and get sorted, basically. And of course, she didn't kind of realise that Bob was already married to somebody else.
Is he still terribly upset?
I would think, looking at him, he's only just learnt to live with the pain.
Oh, poor Terry.
He's had precious little comfort coming home.
Poor boy.
So I thought the best thing would be if he comes and stays with me.
Certainly not.
I think when Thelma was introduced to the Likely Lads, it was more important than just having a chick around. Because I think it was Ian saying a lot what he thought about women.
It's a girl.
Very perceptive.
Thelma?
No, of course it's not.
Oh, good, I can enjoy myself.
Dick certainly, was the one who was married with children, and Ian was the one who was unmarried with girlfriends. So I'm fairly sure in that series you can see the roots a little bit.
It's another girl.
Correct.
Well, I'm beginning to enjoy my birthday. Hey, which one is yours? Where does Thelma think you are tonight? Evening classes again?
I think it was Ian and Dick saying a bit, the wife and being home every night and not allowed to go to the pub and not allowed to go to the football.
Except Fridays, of course.
Well, yes, except Friday. That's always been lads' night.
And what about Tuesdays? Tuesday's dart match.
Yes, well, Tuesday's darts, isn't it?
And midweek football.
Well, obviously we'll be going to that together. But she's got the rest, except Sunday lunchtime.
Having those two guys always want to sneak off to the pub and having her breaking up that, it was, that was a great character. It's the ball-busting wife. It's the working-class ball-busting wife. People find that very funny.
This is your life. Do you remember this voice? Who put blancmange down my brassiere?
Beg your pardon?
Oh, nothing, Thelma, love. Just a party a long time ago. We were kids.
There was a few remarks that I remember thinking, male chauvinist pigs. You know, sort of...
Certainly our attitude to Thelma changed after Bridget. And you know, we used to think, she's not a bad person, Thelma. She was never intended. If she wasn't a good person at the beginning, it was because perhaps we couldn't write women very well.
There began to be headlines like the dreaded Thelma. And I thought, well, dreaded Thelma? I mean, I just didn't see her like that at all. So it was a bit of a shock to me, actually. Because I always thought she was really rather unfortunate.
I mean, I said to him, have I ever tried to stir things between you and Thelma? Well, you know the answer to that.
Yes.
It was Clive James who dubbed her the dreaded Thelma. And, we were trying not to make her a monster, you know, but I mean, inevitably, I don't know, poor Beth. I felt very sorry for her. I often felt sorry, and I loved Bridget's portrayal of her.
Thelma? Thelma?
I've always thought there was insanity in the Ferris family.
Thelma?
I've always put down your absent-mindedness to a sort of lovable eccentricity, Bob, but I realise now that you're right round the twist.
Thelma didn't represent a threat to freedom. Thelma just represented a threat to what had been their life. You're talking about nostalgia again. What had forged their relationship in terms of fun or comradeship was now threatened. And it was actually years threatened. Time changes, but Thelma was the most obvious symbol of that.
That was the market. That was Saturday morning pictures.
Well, at least Eric still survived.
Just.
What I do notice when I look at the reruns that are on now is a sense in the writing of a kind of longing for times past and things gone.
You know where we are now?
Well, vaguely. Look at this calm place.
Underneath this great pile of concrete is what used to be the Go-Go Rock Club, the North's premier music mecca.
The Go-Go? Gone?
Gone.
I've often been aware as years go on, and well, more now than ever before, that of a sense of change and a sense of loss. And even when they were very young, we used to give them speeches about loss. Even when they were 22, they were being very nostalgic about being 15.
We had lots of mates, Rupert. I remember them all.
I remember now. Yeah. And there was an elephant, too.
Aye, that's right. Edward. Edward the elephant.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Edward Trunk, that was it.
No, it was Edward the elephant.
It was Edward Trunk.
Look, man, I know it was Edward the elephant. I used to have an annual every year till I was 12.
Well, I had them till I was 15.
You know, when you get a combination of wonderful writing and perfect casting, I think, you know, if you're lucky, these things fly. And The Likely Lads was so wonderfully cast. As all their TV successes here have been, you know, Ronnie Barker and the Porridge series.
Would you, Adam and Eve? Go to jail.
Porridge is for me just perfection.
I wouldn't demur, even if I knew how to pronounce it.
Tell them how the average day begins.
Starts off at 7 a.m. You'll be woken by a persistent and deafening bell. Then all the screws come round.
I beg your pardon?
All the prison officers come round, offering such advice as, wakey, wakey, get your socks on, move, you horrible creatures. We reply to this badinage with such remarks as, good gracious, is that a time? Good morning, sir. And who's been having your old lady while you've been on night duty?
I suppose Porridge was the best thing I ever did. It was so brilliantly written and so beautifully complete.
Now, the other two lads, they were brothers. There was Jack Barrett and Harry... Barrett, was it? Oh, that's right. Did you know him?
No, only through his brother, like, you know.
Because you see, their escape were in the Yorkshire Post and all. They got away in a fishing boat from Bridlington.
Yeah, is this going to take long, Blanco? Only my foot's gone to sleep. I'd like to catch it up, you know what I mean? They wrote the scripts and you just picked them up and did them. There was nothing to be altered. It was all there. It was complete. It was a plot, a nice plot, not too much plot, plenty of time for character. Always had a very good end, a very good resolution, twist at the end.
It's only a little thing I ask. Just keep these nerks off my back, will you? Because if anyone else walks through that door, I don't think I shall be answerable to the consequences. Do you know what I mean, God? Fletch.
Dick and Ian have that ability to make even the most awful people, I mean, Harry Grout, welcome in your house the following week, and that's clever.
When I was in Parkhurst, I had a pigeon.
Oh, like the Birdman of Alcatraz.
Not really, no.
What'd you do with it when you had to move, like?
I ate it.
With Porridge, Dick and Ian would rewrite and rewrite until the half hour was just about as tight as you could possibly make it.
What I mean is they have special apartments, you see, where the wife comes and stays the weekend, and then you spend the whole time manifesting your long-felt want.
I don't know of any at present.
Maybe not here, but certainly in Holland. And also, I believe, in America, where they have a more enlightened penal system anyway.
We were interested in moving to America. We mostly to get near the centre of the film industry. I mean, that's really why we wanted to come here. But the first trip, the agents immediately seized on the fact that we were successful writers in the field of situation comedy, and they introduced us to a guy called John Ridge.
They sent me Porridge, and I said, that can really be done here, and we made that into a series called On the Rocks.
What'd the warden do?
Nothing. I had mitigating circumstances, so he didn't give me isolation.
Don't you want to talk about these mitigating circumstances?
I'd rather not.
Hey, Nicky, there are no secrets in here.
Does it have anything to do with your aunt's adenoids?
I must say, not as well acted as Ronnie, but okay. It worked out fine, and they were wonderful to work with. Terrific writers.
A good plot is still a good plot, and essentially, if you've got a good story, then that's the train that is motoring along the tracks.
It's a Dear John letter, is it?
Yeah, and in my case, it's Dear Lenny.
Naturally. Yours, but no longer forever, Denise, eh?
That's right.
So it's the demise of Denise, is it?
I've seen this happen many times, kid. It's only natural. You could say inevitable. At least your Marion was honest enough to let you know.
Because they're all at it like knives when we're in here,
Well, it just came out of left field. There was no hint of it in her last letter.
Her main concern then was whether we should have a budgerigar or a canary.
In your future life together, you mean?
Yeah.
The plots worked perfectly well. You had to change certain things and certain references, but if you stuck with that, they translated pretty well.
Look, son, I know it's only academic now, but speaking personally, from personal experience,
I would always choose the parakeet.
It seemed that possibly it really could work, and it would be very different. And so it was a very positive attitude we had when we went into it. We didn't feel that, we're just going over there to kind of make a pallid version of a classic series. We thought it might open all sorts of possibilities. It wasn't, of course. It was a pallid version of the original series.
Here, they were terrified of it being too grainy, too gritty, and at one point we had a meeting where somebody suggested setting it in Hawaii, and Ian said, well, that'll be great, so occasionally we get a glimpse of a palm tree through a barred window, as if that is going to make a significant difference to whether it's palatable or not.
That's one decision you won't have to make now.
By the time we finished the series, I think I said to the producer, it makes you yearn for the gritty reality of Hogan's Heroes.
I didn't really ever enjoy writing for American television, I mean, to be honest. With the exception of the Tracy Ullman show now, which is for HBO, where we've got freedom and it's fun.
God damn it, Ian. It's not funny, Ian. You ruined the show from the very beginning.
Stop showing off the pair of you.
I met them when they were writing Auf Wiedersehen Pet, because my husband produced that show.
No. Come back, you make me look younger.
When they came to work with me on Tracy Takes On, I had to be quite strict with them because they're like a sort of married couple. They finish each other's sentences and they're terribly close, and they'd never worked in a room with a big group of writers.
That's been different, not because it's been doing something consistently in America, because we haven't done a gang situation before, and in fact very rarely have we written sketches. But it came about because of our friendship with Tracy, and because it's and our admiration for the Tracy Ullman show.
Oh, I love that show.
You're very kind.
Heading home, are we?
Yes, I'm going back to L.A. for pilot season.
With me, it's always pilot season.
Oh, they were very important in the first year of starting the show up, and they came up with wonderful storylines, especially for the English characters that I portray.
Culture, okay, culture.
We would like to do two in culture.
You want to do two?
Oh yeah, Hope and Dylan Thomas.
Perfect.
They should do culture because they're the only ones at the table who have it.
Is this chicken? No, it's pheasant, Mom.
Really? So hard to tell under this dubious sauce.
Yes, it is rather revolting. Awfully sorry.
We covered different bases. You know, we had male, female, old, young, I mean, American English. I mean, we covered a lot of different bases. And I found it very stimulating, actually. It was like using a different set of muscles.
Darling, I'm beginning to like it here. When we saw Vicki Lawrence and Tab Hunter and Bells Are Ringing, I realized it's not the cultural desert that we feared, you know, but this is not about the Sunshine State, Ollie, let me do for you. This is not about it. It's about these three men down here and what they're doing to my nerves.
Fine.
What?
I'm gonna go talk.
Oh.
Because you can do that here.
Yes.
You can talk to strangers.
Harry, be careful, there may be Cubans.
We don't want her to get late.
Yeah, don't. All right, she's not going to lose her virginity.
When I moved to America in 1976, I obviously saw a lot of Dick and Ian, and we set up a company initially to make commercials, and then that developed into a company that made programming. We all settled in Los Angeles in sort of late 76, and we were offered various shows with the various networks here.
You know, a few years passed, and you've got American Wives, and you've got more friends here than you have there, and then work's being generated here, and you suddenly live in Los Angeles. But of course, during that period, we kept working in England, and then with the formation of Witsend, it was a very, very strong link, which took us to Auf Wiedersehen Pet.
I was going to do this program called Auf Wiedersehen Pet for the BBC as a single play. I was in Los Angeles a few years later, having done nothing with Auf Wiedersehen Pet. And I had lunch with Ian Frenais and told him about the idea for Auf Wiedersehen Pet and the characters and so forth. And he said, he was so excited at lunchtime, he said, I want to go away and write it now. I feel so good about this program. I want to go away and write it now.
Dearest Brenda, we are now at sea. I stood on deck and watched the coast of England disappear into the distant mist. Who knows what lies ahead? A better future for us. That is my fervent hope.
Geordie Mafia got word that they'd written a new comedy series, and we were all desperate to be in it.
The problem's going to be the dogs, though. And, well, we're going to put the sand, because...
Shut up, Oz! And we're going to need false papers and civic clothes.
Shut up, man, will you?
Well, it's like that, isn't it? You know what I mean? Rouse, schnell.
I went down to London to a place called Cecil Sharp House near Regent's Park. And I went in to read, and there were producer-director type people around, and I was reading, and I'd taken quite a while to look at the script, never having seen one before.
You know the reason I left this country in the first place, didn't you? Huh? I'll tell you, in a word. Margaret bloody Thatcher, that's why.
And I looked across the room at Jimmy and I said, oh, please just let him be able to act a little bit, because he looked exactly the Oz that I'd seen in my mind's eye.
Because I'd had it, I was up to there with what she created. Bloody wasteland, desolate, no joy, no hope, no note.
As I was reading it, somewhere in the darkness, there were a couple of people chuckling.
All I remember is Ian's piercing stare in this church hall, having a really good close look at us, but laughing a lot as well. Both of them, they're a great audience for actors. They're fab and very encouraging. They laugh a lot at their own scripts.
I didn't know any better, so I said, "Who's that over there in the darkness, chuckling?" Or words to that effect. And this voice said, "No, it's we're the writers." I said, "Well, would you mind fucking trying to be a bit quiet? Well, it's hard enough to read these things without people laughing in the corner in the darkness."
And I'm subjected to this act of fascist intimidation, because that's what it is, you know.
I mean, you know, there was no Oz until then, but, you know, we'd written this character, and, you know, he looked fantastic, and his acting experience was really raw at the time.
There was a little bit of controversy about that.
What was that?
Well, just from what I gather, the director wanted Jimmy very much to do it, and some other people didn't.
Well, what a despicable attitude, eh?
Obviously, it was a big risk casting a totally unknown lad that hadn't done any work, any acting.
Just remember, man, they need us more than we need them.
The series' success was in part due to finding a really great Oz, and all of the other characters. Every one of our actors in that was really fantastic.
We're the Magnificent Seven, and Dennis is your Brinner.
Well, he's got to put the same amount of hair.
Oh, aye. Very funny, aye. I'll be Backhouse, because he was the youngest and best looking, wasn't he?
Oh, he was also the most boring bastard, wasn't he? All right. He was the one that was always tagging along. The other six kept on to piss off.
I think Barry should be Yul Brynner, because he's the one that brought us together.
Aye.
Can't see that somehow. He's not a natural leader, is Barry.
They seem to love this collision of people who they're united by the town they come from or something really, or the country they come from. It's something kind of tenuous. And everything else about them is completely opposite. They're completely foreign to one another. But they all get on.
All right, everybody. Look, I'll be really obliged, right, if nobody laughs.
Laughs at what?
Your face.
I think the common thread is captive situations. People trapped by circumstances or by job, by environment, and trying to get out of it.
We saw the irony immediately of people going to Germany to get work and being, oh, that dreaded phrase that they said love in this town, fish out of water.
Look, I've seen blokes like you come and go all the times I've worked in Germany. Never been out the UK before. Never eaten foreign food, never drank foreign beer. Fish out the water without the wife or the mother to lend a guiding hand. After a week they've lost their passports, they've got pissed, lost most of their money, and become ridiculously nationalistic for the country that can't even bloody employ them in the first place, man.
One of the bureaus. Hey, no, I know what I'm not one of the days.
We went to see a football match in Liverpool, I think. It was Liverpool-Newcastle. And the Newcastle fans were chanting, E-I-A-D-O, Oz is better than Yossa. Yossa from Boys in the Black Stuff. And that, you thought, whoa, you've somehow tapped into something which is right in the British consciousness.
That series, that kind of won us some street cred again. And we were, through various reasons, some personal, some domestic, some to do with work, certainly seemed to spend a lot of time in England in that period in 83, 84, 85.
I might be one of the world now, but never forget your roots, son. Right? You'll always be a Geordie, no matter where you go. Because this is a place what shaped you, made you what you are. All right?
Oh, God.
Auf Wiedersehen, son.
We wrapped it up in 1986. I don't think they could take any more of me by then, of my demand for script rewrites.
What's this? I'll put that on, sure. I could bloody do.
It was like an abusive marriage. He was horrible to me at times. And really, very unpleasant. But then I did get a relationship with Jimmy, which probably was based on the fact we were both from the Northeast.
I rang Ian and I said, I've got this idea. And so we met up in London, and he was coming back from, I think he'd been to Italy. And we met up and had dinner, and he said, I've always wanted to do something up there, but he and Dick had never gotten round to it, for whatever reason. So Ian and I had this kind of dynamic power dinner, and we agreed to work on a script.
This is not a good start, Spender.
If I'm under wraps, I don't want the local plods to know who I am, okay? Never mind the local villains.
Next time, let's meet somewhere with a roof on it.
I always felt a little bit uneasy that I was kind of stealing Ian away at night time and weekends from his and Dick's sort of day job, if you like, because I do think they have something. I do think they have something really rare, in as much as they have a kind of professional working marriage.
You've got family up here, haven't you? Wife, kids?
Ex-wife.
Well, you feel guilty twice. You feel guilty for shortchanging your wife, Dick, and then guilty for shortchanging the mistress, Mistress Nail, who gets very beady.
I was always the one who was unfaithful, in that I was the one who kept going off directing movies, which was great.
And action!
But you know, Ian was the one who had to fill his time in while I did that.
Oh, you sons of imperialists!
So I was sidelined a lot. He was with a little bitterness in his voice.
We'll have them running towards us.
Yes.
And I think we'll have the two step into it with the next shot.
Yes.
There was a time when I was developing a movie that I was going to write with another writer, and Ian came in to get a pen or something like that, you know, and walked out the room, and the other writer said, he said, "I feel like the other woman," you know.
Yes?
Apparently I have been summoned by her ladyship.
Have you come to repair something?
Probably the Argo. Lovejoy.
I think with Lovejoy, Dick was directing Anyone for Dennis in London. So there's no problem there.
If home is where the heart is, then this is home to me. An auction room. On auction day, when the old ticker beats faster, with the slender possibility that somewhere, just somewhere amongst the bird cages, silver spoons, commemorative medals, roll-top desks and cast-offs from Granny's attic, somewhere amongst that lot, a genuine, authentic antique will appear, shining with all the love that made it.
Ian was a great friend of McShane's, like myself. Ian and I were in London a lot more then. I can't quite remember why, but we were spending more time in London. And it was a case where the first script or two was written by maybe Ian, and then Dick came in and did a rewrite with Ian. And then we, of course, hired lots of other writers because it was one of our producing things. And I got pretty well involved in it from there on in. So that was different. That wasn't a classic Clement de Frenais.
Blue and gold printed earthenware spode, marked AD 1732. It's quite an achievement, that, considering Hosea Spode wasn't born until 1733.
The particular disappointment was the series we did called Full Stretch, where we really thought we were onto something. I thought we had a wonderful cast. I thought Kevin McNally was as good playing the character of Baz in his own way as Ronnie Barker was with Fletcher.
What I'm saying is, we were kind of a glamorous couple, got invited a lot of places, like Bobby Moore and Tina. Then we went to the States. I'll never forget the day we arrived. My agent's at the airport. He's standing there in his Ferragamo shoes and his ostrich skin Filofax. And behind him, the biggest limo you have ever seen. A full-stretch, white Cadillac Eldorado. I've never smoked opium, but I can't imagine a better sense of well-being than sitting in the back of one of them, watching all that Florida blue sky and palm trees floating by.
We seem to get lost in the shuffle between the new ITV setup and the program was never sort of cushioned. Still feel very angry about it, actually. Very upset. No, less upset. Less upset.
They have said since they made a mistake, which doesn't make you feel any better at all, but, you know, it didn't have a chance to build, and that was a great disappointment, because we really thought we might have turned that into the new Minder or something, if we'd had a chance to build it.
He's not on anything, is he? No. No, he was shattered up all night in the studio. We might just get away with this. Off you go. Drive carefully.
What
Isn't he going to wonder why it took him 3 hours to get from Wembley to St James's? Burst water main in Cricklewood.
Up till about 1990, I was still really upset about not having something on English television or something that was successful or something that was... I guess I just wanted people over there to still know I was around. And in the last few years, it doesn't worry me at all. I just don't fret about it. And it doesn't worry me at all, and I don't know why, and I think it's because since the commitments happened, we got a lot of respect, and then that opened up a lot of doors.
Hi, I've come about the audition.
They had talked to me ages before, on many occasions, about doing something funny about rock and roll music, because it was, you know, over the years we've talked about that and never got around to doing it. So in a way, it was Roddy's book, actually, that gave us, you know, the best clues and a blueprint for the commitments.
That's what you got to measure up to, lads. Do you not think, what? Well, like, maybe we're a little white for that kind of thing. Do you not get it, lads? The Irish are the blacks of Europe, and Dubliners are the blacks of Ireland. And the Northside Dubliners are the blacks of Dublin. So say it once, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud.
I saw the movie called The Commitments, and I was just enamored with the characters and the story, and it was just a wonderful film. It had all the kind of things that I like to do in movies. It had humor, it had drama, it had pathos, it had well-established characters, brilliant dialogue, and I saw their name. And I said, these are two gentlemen I have to meet.
Mr. Macy, I'm Special Agent in charge, Ernest Paxton.
In charge of what? Fucking me over for another 3 decades?
I don't know anything about your previous matters. I'm here because a special situation exists that we feel you might be able to help us with.
Now, what might that be?
We were working on The Rock and on the script process with Sean Connery. We'd added a couple of drafts done, 3 or 4 drafts on the film. And Sean wasn't getting quite what he wanted for his character, for the dialogue. Somebody understood his exact way of saying things, how he would react to situations. And he said, you know, there's these writers I worked on a Bond picture with, and it happened to be Dick and Ian.
Good to see you, Mr. Bond. Things have been awfully dull round here. Bureaucrats running the old place, everything done by the book. Can't make a decision unless the computer gives you the go-ahead.
I mean, we went into that movie when it was already 3 weeks into shooting, and it was in big trouble. And the analogy I always made was it's a little bit like being plumbers when somebody's basement's flooded. You know, they're very pleased to see you when you turn up because you didn't flood the basement and maybe you can pump it out.
I'd like you to see the irrigologist at 4, have the colonic at 5, and then you can cut along to the light dining room and have a refreshing cup of parsley tea.
We're always tempted to recycle jokes. I mean, we did use one in the same... It's not a similar joke. It's the same joke in Never Say Never Again as in Porridge, and it's sort of... If you see them back to back, it's quite amusing.
Mr. Bond, I need a urine sample. If you could fill this beaker for me.
From here?
When you see those flowers over there, I want you to fill one for me.
What, from here?
We call it homage. We don't call it recycling. But it doesn't happen very often. You get caught. It's amazing.
Now you're on this. I hope we're going to have some gratuitous sex and violence.
I certainly hope so, too.
When we did The Rock, we didn't attempt to touch the action sequences. They were already storyboarded, and they basically worked. And, you know, that wasn't what they needed from Dick and Ian. You know, what they did need was particularly the scenes between Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, you know, the dialogue between those two.
You've been around a lot of corpses. Is that normal?
What, the feet thing?
Yeah, the feet thing.
Yeah, that happens.
I'm having kind of a hard time concentrating. Can you do something about it?
Like what? Kill him again?
You know, when you work with writers, they always say, yeah, we'll get you the pages, they're coming, like a week later. Dick and Ian, I'm like, Dick and Ian, I need the pages. Like, okay, you'll have them at 5 o'clock. Sure enough, a fax would come in. Here are the pages.
Yes, she's here. Bring it to me now. Thank you, Phil. What's that? Why'd you get it sent here? Carl wouldn't approve. She's
thinks it's dumb to spend $600 on an LP.
Carla's right. Why don't you just spend $13 on a CD, man?
First of all, it's because I'm a Beatlemaniac. And second, these sound better.
I kept watching thinking, yes, there's one of Ian's. You could hear the ones that they'd slotted in, you know, Connery's wry asides.
You enjoying this?
Well, it's certainly more enjoyable than my average day. Reading philosophy, avoiding gang rape in the washrooms. Though it's less of a problem these days. Maybe I'm losing my sex appeal.
If you look at the credits of The Rock, you'll see the assistant carpenter's name and the limo driver's name, and you will not see that we had anything to do with it. I say that as a fact. I'm not saying it out of bitterness. Fortunately, the business knew that we had something to do with it, and people, you know, so that it helps our careers because people are coming to us knowing that we had something to do with it.
Dick and I are doing a film now with Alicia Silverstone, which has been edited, then it's been re-edited, it has been sneaked twice, and we're still working on it. We're still doing lines over someone's shoulder.
I'm getting it back.
You could probably add a line on there when he's got a head on that.
It's been long enough.
Why is she still in this car at this point? Why doesn't she say, I've gone far enough, open the door, let me out?
And then she says, well, look, I have my reasons, and we both have reason to disappear. So why don't we just stick it out? And he looks at it and she says, have I been a problem?
You know, a solid diet of this would obviously not have one's life in balance. So it's very important to have your more personal movies that are really you, with your own voice. But I find a balance between the original work and the rewrites actually to be very stimulating.
It's not a second-rate job at all. It's an important job. I don't have any apologies to make for rewriting. But I might have thought that way a few years ago. I might have thought, no, this is preventing us moving on. This is just paying the rent. And then I've learned it isn't.
I think most people would give their right arm to be doing what Dick and Ian are doing in Hollywood. So I don't think that they've wasted anything. I think, if anything, we've been lucky enough to benefit from their output.
We were playing Land of Hope and Glory on National Public Radio in the hailstorm the other day as I drove home. Don't know why, and I felt very emotional.
I think Dick did in the 80s went through his period where he got disillusioned and really wanted to go back, but less than I did.
We've tried all the time to continue working for Britain and using the English voice. I mean, the film that we're in development with now called Still Crazy is a very English movie, and we are dying to make it because it really is a personal expression of what we do. So I would always want to write for Britain.
I think the next 3 or 4 years could be fantastic. Certainly we're working harder now than we ever have. I think we've just about got it right. I think we're almost there.
More laughs from St Swithin's next on BBC One, where the Doctor's in love.
But you don't ask their names, that's living alright. Yeah, you play the game, then it's happy to say, that's living alright.
We had some busting times out, didn't we?
No.
Which to measure other actors.